Okay, guys, we need to talk about Dr. Claudine Gay, the now former president of Harvard University. She was one of 3 university presidents, all women, mind you, who participated in a gotcha Republican hearing in the House last month that was designed not to illuminate anything about campus anti-Semitism, as Republicans claimed, but rather to put on display for the MAGA base the right's hatred of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, they really hate diversity, which, of course, is the product of the 20th century they hate so much. So everything they do is about removing diversity. The mere presence of anyone who isn't white or male from spaces they think are reserved for white men drives them nuts. And in the wake of that hearing, the right-wing anti-DEI brigade got part of what they wanted. Days later, University of Pennsylvania President Elizabeth McGill announced she was stepping down. But the 2 others, Claudine Gay and MIT President Sally Kornbluth, remained. So naturally, Claudine Gay, the only Black woman on the target list, became the focal point of a legion of mediocre men whose mission is to eradicate diverse people from education, from kindergarten through PhD. These men accused Gay of plagiarism. But first, some facts are in order. Harvard University itself never accused Claudine Gay, who got her PhD there, of plagiarism. Nor did they conclude that any issues with her academic citations even amounted to misconduct. As the AP correctly notes, the outrage came not from her academic peers, but rather from her political foes, led by conservatives who put her career under intense scrutiny. And the accusations of plagiarism basically came from one right-wing anti-DEI activist in particular, who faithful readers will remember from this show as the architect of the right's war on critical race theory. Good old Christopher Rufo, a Harvard wannabe and fake intellectual who's perfected a grift of ratcheting up anger about things that make middleweight white dudes like himself, Tucker Carlson and their ilk, very, very angry. You know, things like not being president of Harvard or even getting into Harvard as a student, both of which Claudine Gay has done and Christopher Rufo has not. It is worth noting that he didn't just wage a war against Claudine Gay. He telegraphed every step of what he was really trying to destroy and how he was going to do it. A month before the sham congressional hearing, he tweeted about how to fix academia and said, quote, "Abolish DEI bureaucracies and punish universities that discriminate on the basis of race." He later claimed that Claudine Gay, quote, "quietly built a diversity empire, overseeing a racist admissions program, a sprawling DEI bureaucracy, and an effort to dename buildings and reduce the visual presence of white men on campus." The next day, he straight up admitted that he launched the story of plagiarism accusations in order to topple her. And ultimately, his grifty crusade was successful. Claudine Gay resigned, saying it was in the best interest of Harvard not to focus on any individual. Meanwhile, Rufo is out there gloating about his transparent victory. He told Politico, "I've run the same playbook on critical race theory, on gender ideology, on DEI bureaucracy. This is a universal strategy that can be applied by the right to most issues." And now everyone on the right is high-fiving each other over the successful execution of his plan, which, far from being brilliant or clever, merely requires the other side, and yes, that includes the media, to be hypersensitive easy marks. And it is important to remember that Claudine Gay's resignation is not an individual story. The attack on her is a symbol of a greater war against the progress of the 20th century, which these men are determined to repeal. It's not just undoing Black educational and business progress and banning accurate Black history and the boogeyman critical race theory. They want to force women and people of color back into their place too. Back to the kitchen and the birthing bed, presumably serving and obeying, just like the bad old days that were only good for people like Christopher. Case in point, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton's victory in court Tuesday. The far-right Fifth Circuit Federal Court of Appeals has ruled that Texas can ban life-saving emergency abortions and let women die, despite federal guidance requiring hospitals to provide stabilizing care. Paxton has sued the Biden administration over the case. There's also the case of Brittany Watts, a black woman in Ohio who miscarried a non-viable pregnancy. A grand jury is now considering whether to indict her under a weaponized interpretation of a state law that prohibits abuse of a corpse. Whether you're a black woman in academia or a pregnant white woman in Texas, the message to you is clear. Know your place. And it's not just right-wing men or even older people. Thanks to the Tucker Carlson effect, it's conservative young folks too.
They're being fed a lie that is the idea of freedom, that if you choose to have a life married to a man, you choose to stay home and have children, that you are being oppressed, when really we were created to do so.
Feminism is this direct punch against masculinity and the male figure in society.
Once they got that equality, they stopped wanting to be equal to men and wanted to start being superior to men.
The Lord created us for two different roles, and therefore I feel that men are meant to have that role in which they lead us, in not just in our household, but in our faiths and just in our country.
Well, if that's the case, dear, you might be surprised to learn that the third highest ranking Republican in the House of Representatives is in fact a woman. But at least that woman is doing her bit to help out her brethren on the anti-DEI brigade. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a Harvard graduate, led the bogus questioning at that sham hearing last month, claiming credit for Claudine Gay's exit. Late today, Dr. Gay published an op-ed in the New York Times responding to all of this. And after the break, we will tell you what she had to say about the success of the anti-DEI bullying campaign.
I got so excited in the middle of that because I told y'all I'm always second guessing and third guessing myself when I present the information that I found along with my opinions. And for Joyanne Reid, the Joyanne Reid, to do research separate from me and come up with the same conclusion and opinions that I have, it just, The rumor is that Harvard did a full investigation into Claudine Gay and her plagiarism and found nothing. I say that's rumor because I haven't dug into it to find anything more. The violent racists that make up the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, they don't care about plagiarism. They don't care about anti-Semitism. Those were avenues, those were tools that they used to take down Claudine Gay in an attempt to bring down diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. And they are now attacking, after attacking critical race theory, after attacking woke, the war on woke, y'all remember that, after attacking LGBTQIA members, after attacking anything that means including others except for white men. Now they are attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just like they got rid of affirmative action, they are moving. Each state is removing DEI from their campuses and universities, from corporations. They are dismantling diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason being is that they don't view us as equals. They don't want to see us in higher positions. They want to see us as their cooks, their maids, their nannies, the blue-collar worker. They don't want to see us in boardrooms. And it's working. It's working because our so-called allies who are in the position to squash these MAGA terrorist, racist trolls, they aren't doing that. Instead, they are appeasing these violent trolls. You couple that with black people talking about they aren't voting, and it won't be long before we will be back in that subservient role.